hope you're tied on because we're off and running Wednesday afternoon, everybody, here at Gulfstream Park. Acacia Courtney, look who's back. Jason Blewett alongside, and certainly good to have you with us as we settle in for a 5-day racing week. And the thing is, it's been a while since we ran here live on a Wednesday.
Yes, it is, and we're going to make up a few days here, and we're happy to have things back to normal at Gulfstream Park and hoping that everything is back to normal with your homes as well. I was up in our sister track at Laurel Park this past weekend for the DeFrancis Dash, but happy to be back home in South Florida.
Yeah, it's good to have you back down. We'll have Ron Nicoletti in the mix, and of course, the voice of Gulfstream Park, Pete Aiello, coming up in about a half hour with those Wednesday scratches and changes. We'll get right into it as far as what's on tap. You've got 10 races waiting for you today. Fast and firm conditions, and that dollar rolling super high five gets underway in race number 1 with a very competitive $10,000 3-and-up filly and mare turf sprint claimer at 5 furlongs. That also, of course, begins our first of 2 pick 5s on the program. The early pick 5 for just 50 cents, and we won't have 3 pick 4s today, but we do have over 15K in that Rainbow Six.
We do, over 16K, and that'll start in the 5th race today on this 10-race card, and then we cap things off with the late pick 5 in the 6th race, just a 50-cent wager. And you said it right, Jason, a couple of really competitive, toughly matched races today.
Like the card quite a bit, and if you're following South Florida and you're kind of familiar with the horse population down here, I think most of us are very excited to see the rematch a bit later on between Gautier and Diaz, two very honest, sharp horses who will throw it down on the turf a bit later in the afternoon. And the grass is where it's at for the first race as we dive into the Wednesday card, and we do so with Acacia's early pick 5 ticket. No ring rust for you. We're taking this down. What are we doing?
All right, right back in, and I think the first race, it is the tough race for sure. It looks to me like there should be a pretty hot pace, so the current favorite, Love Flute, looks like we'll be able to close into that. She's been in pretty good form lately, but I will use a couple other of the strongest looking contenders in here. Dream Shot in the 2nd race should be the class, especially going off by our speed figures and his consistency as of late. But I am intrigued by Grey Dude coming in for Armando de la Cerda after some strong races at Arlington, and I'll try to get a price with GQ cover up on the outside as well. Just using 2 horses in the 3rd race. I'm going to go with the most logical on the outside 2 in Fiore and Sarah the Queen Bee, but that is kind of, I think, a little bit more and anything can happen race in one that I might like to use a few more. I'm going to single Wakachula. Looks to be just the most consistent lately. I think you can give a little bit of forgiveness for that last race, breaking from the rail, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But Reunited with Tyler Gaffleone looks like she's in the right spot. And then the 5th race, a maiden claiming for 2-year-olds. I'll use 3 horses in there, a couple of first-time starters, and $27 for me.
And that looks like a real tricky cash out.
Yes.
Boy, do you have a lot of guesswork to be had in that 5th race. I think a field of 9 after scratches with 6 first-time starters in race number 5. But we begin, and I'll tell you, a speed lane. You hit it on the head. There is a ton of run-and-gun style throughout this opening first race. Very few scratches, by the way, on today's card. There were a few MTOs that were scratched, and outside of the Wakachula race, these races pretty much appear the way they did immediately out of the entry box a few days ago. Let's talk, though, about Love Flute and Redigia and the cast in today's first race. And I think the reason you and I, probably the biggest one anyway, in taking Love Flute on top is the fact that she can rate a little bit and sit. It happened last time out in her nose victory 40 days ago on August the 11th, the race we're going to show you as Tyler Gaffleone returns to Gulfstream Park for the first time post-Hurricane Irma. He's still number 1 in the nation with 224 wins. Redigia, who's on the front end at this point. Let's just pause it there. And you see Redigia in the green cap, obviously turning for home in front. And here comes a determined sort of 3-wide chase with Love Flute. We'll let it roll off the 3/16 pole or so, and Love Flute, the fact that she can just stalk and pounce, I think, much like it did 40 days ago, will bode well in today's first.
And she seems to be coming into her own lately. Her last couple of races, I think, have been very strong. She went through a spell just not really showing up, not really putting any big performances. I agree with you. Tactically, it looks like it's going to set up for her. She's going to be able to close. You've got speed from Our Sweet Exchange, who's dropping in class for sure. You certainly have speed from Nano knows, Crown, that's a run and gun type horse as well. And even Goodbye to Sorrow to the outside used to show a lot of speed. So I just think that it's going to set up for Love Flute in here. It's certainly not a sure thing, but tactically it looks like that's how it's going to play.
I would really like the 5R Sweet Exchange, and I like her to an extent, and clearly you do as well. And geez, your first day back since we left for Hurricane Irma, and it's a cold 4-5, 3-7 to start the card for Acacia and I. But I really think our Sweet Exchange is better when she's able to make the front end. Not that she's a need-to-lead horse, tried and true, but she's best when she's able to make the point. And if she does that today, I think she's just going to run too hard, too fast early on. We'll see. On to the second, and again, plenty of turf to go around on this Wednesday, September 20th at Gulfstream Park as we get on to this $30,000 to $25,000 3-and-up claimer at a 2-turn turf mile. I agree wholeheartedly with your comment giving out your pick 5, that Dream Shot, and we'll show you the win 2-back for Dream Shot on July 28th now. He's the class of this field, and ultimately if you don't get that big sort of maybe wise guyish improvement with the one gray dude first time out for De La Cerda, it might be a simple case of Dream Shot just being, again, a little faster, a little more talented than this crew.
He certainly could be just a notch above and gets Tyler Gaffleon back up. I think last time he was just maybe left with too much to do. He was closing, and he actually ran a good race behind Bird Humor, who's kind of just been a win machine lately for Reed Nagel. But I like this race 2 starts back. I thought that was the real Dream Shot that we saw there. He had a good work since then. But as I mentioned, Gray Dude certainly looks intriguing. He had a couple of solid races at Arlington, and we'll show a stout in Armando de la Cerda. And if you've ever been watching Gulfstream, you know how much we respect this barn. This is first time with trainer turf route races. It's not a huge sample size, but he's 3 for 12 and 6 for 12 in the money with a very good ROI. So Armando does a great job getting horses into his barn and helping them either stay in form or take a step forward.
Yeah, he looks like the real sort of danger to the connections of the number 3 Dream Shot. I would imagine he'll be a clear-cut second choice. And to be honest, as I made my way through this $25,000 to $30,000 to $25,000 claimer, I honestly feel the race Dream Shot won 2-back for $16,000 maybe was a notch tougher than this field. It's funny that you've got a number of horses outside of the 2 we talked about with Inside Post who just aren't in great form right now. One of them, at least as far as the last out effort is concerned, is the 7 GQ cover-up. He's your price horse, and we know Reed Nagel can find his way to the winner's circle.
He is, and by contrast, I think he actually faced far and above the toughest competition last time. You had Croy come back into stakes competition, 3 next out winners, all of them getting buyers in the 80s. So I think that he's definitely faced the toughest. I think maybe it was just a little bit in over his head. And if you remember, Croy sent a monster early pace, and GQ cover-up faded while Croy continued on. If he can dictate and get some speed from the outside, he could be in a better spot today.
Some good points there for sure. Let's move on to race 3, our opening race on the main track, listed as fast this Wednesday afternoon as we head into this $12,500 3-and-up filly mare claimer. Riverina the 7 was scratched. That leaves us with the field of 7. Originally, I had her in the second spot, and for Acacia and I, it's basically a cold 6-8 exacta, and they're going to have to do some running, I think, to get around the 6 Fiore. We had that 12-day gap, Acacia, between racing during the break with Hurricane Irma, but one thing was constant and a steady presence when we returned both on Saturday and Sunday, and that was just, I'd say, the overall placement and solid consistency we've seen from trainer Victor Barboza Jr.'s stock, no matter the level. And truth be told, after winning a couple here on Saturday and Sunday, he enters this week, and we've only got a couple of weeks remaining in this summer meet at Gulfstream Park. He's actually tied with Ralph Nix at 20 wins apiece at the top.
It's really incredible, and you bring up a great point that whatever level it is and whatever surface, it seems like all of the horses have been running and running well prepared and spotted well, which really is half the battle sometimes. This horse had actually had some nice races on the turf. They switched her over to the dirt last time. She had a win on a sloppy track, and it looks like the dirt really just is where she prefers to be, so that's where they'll keep her today. Sarah the Queen Bee, who's the 8 in here, was second to her last time out. I liked that she showed that she could come from off of the pace. She was closing very wide. I just think that Fiore might be a touch better.
I'm with you in that camp as well. I might even single Fiore if I was playing the early pick 5. Now, you run into maybe not a dilemma, because I think Wakachulo is definitely the centerpiece in race number 4. It does concern me a little bit, and this was the one race whose complexion, at least as far as the pace went or goes, this was the one race whose complexion definitely changed with 3 scratches in the body of this $10,000 3-and-up filly mare claimer, and that includes the 2 inside runners, that is, in Hazel W and the 2 Congressional Storm. That may really boost the chances of the number 5 Storm in Charlotte, who's a drop down and clearly prefers just being a mare that can get out there and do her thing on the point. However, she's likely at some point going to have to fend off a closing run from the 6, Wakachula, who 2-back was very good once again for trainer Tammy Levy, who we see on today's card not only having Wakachula, whose name I love pronouncing. I know you do as well. She's also got Diaz coming up in our featured 9th race on the Wednesday card. This was a great ride. 2-back on the 1st of June, beneath Tyler Gaffleone, basically getting her covered up and waiting until the last possible moment off the 3/16 pole to angle outside. If she runs her race, and that includes Storm and Charlotte, perhaps owning a tactical advantage, I still think Wakachula is probably going to run her down.
It certainly could be, and I think a good thing for the pace scenario is that you have Just a Darling who has speed as well. And Wakachula, I think, is pretty handy in here, and she can be up close to the pace, whatever that pace scenario might be. I think Tyler Gaffleone handles this mare very well, and she's very consistent. And last time, as I said, she had the rail, she came out, she had all kinds of trouble, and she was much further back than she normally is. She looks to be the one to beat. Storm and Charlotte is a bit of a question for me because her last win was coming from so far off of the pace. I know that was the day that Tyler got, I believe, what was it, 7 and 7?
1-7, yeah, that was back on 4th of July. Yeah,
that was on that day. So I used Vineyard Nina in second because I think that this is a horse who's in deceptively good form as well, and Joe Catnese does actually have some pretty strong contenders today and tomorrow.
Yeah, we'd like to see Joe Cat's horses running well and to be pretty live on paper. And let me just add, the Hollywood Tomcat race that Vineyard Nina and Wakachula are coming out of, they are the first returnees off that race. I do think that is a race worth keeping an eye on. I thought that was a very, very deep and competitive field for the level, and it might be a live race in the making. We shall see. We shall also see, on her first day back off a layoff here at Gulfstream, Miss Acacia's Rainbow 6 ticket, all that and more coming your way after a quick timeout.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
To the finish with Fort Lauderdale to catch him. They're not going to catch him. Fort Lauderdale the winner. He went clear at the start, and he's coming home, turning handspring. Fort Lauderdale, brilliant in the statement master. What a thriller in the British Cup Classic. Fort Lauderdale gets deep, nose and nose to the wire. Fort Lauderdale has won it.
And we're back, and a hearty welcome back, of course, from our Paddock Set Studios on a pretty nice but warm. It is sunny and warm here towards the end of September at Gulfstream Park. Acacia and Jason settled in for the final 6 races on this 10-race Wednesday card, and you kind of noted the changes, at least, or additions to the late summer racing schedule at GP. We'll see some action next Wednesday as well.
Yes, we will. As we said, making up a couple of days before we start the Gulfstream Park West meet in October. But first things first, we'll give you a look at my Rainbow 6 ticket as that does kick off here in race number 5. That's the main thing we have to tackle today, and I did have a little bit of a tough time with this sequence. I tried to keep things more affordable, and I'm just using 2 in the first leg, which makes me a bit nervous because I'm going to go with His Name is Sue and Cabin John, both of whom are first-time starters, but hopefully that gets me through the first leg. I'll also use 2 deep in the 6 with Dreaming of Aka and the number 8, Don't Talk Back, who I think is probably the one to beat on the turn back in distance in here. And then we have 2-year-olds again, this time the fillies in maiden special weight in the 7th race. That one I wanted to spread in.
Spreadathon there.
Spreadathon there. And I think you have some good opportunity for some great prices in that race. 2 deep, using both Gautier and Diaz. That rematch in the 8th, though I do like Diaz on top in there. 2 deep with with a second-time starter at a price for Kathleen O'Connell. Cincinnati on top in the 9th, and then 3 deep in the finale, and going to be 38-40 for me.
I hope you get up to the last
Me
race,
too.
and you might have the most consistent trio in the nightcap, as we hope you cash out there for 38-40. And obviously, you went heavy, or somewhat heavy, in race 7. I think some people might be for the rainbow and even late pick 5, maybe singling the 5, Sammy Sunshine. We'll see. I wound up singling her on my late pick 5. We'll give you that in just a few moments. But let's pick our way through again. This is sort of, at least as far as the multi-race wagers go, this is kind of a landmine type field where you just don't have a heck of a lot as far as form to sink your teeth into. By the way, 2-year-old fillies, many of them, in fact, 2/3 of this crew are first-time starters running for $35,000 claiming tags. With Maltese Dog as the sire, we're going to give a shot to the #1 Ed Gray's Rocket. That's Ed's Rocket from the inside post. By that favorite stallion of mine and Maltese Dog, and I am encouraged. Obviously, you know we're big fans of Armando de la Cerda. I'm encouraged, and this is the first fall out of the dam, the race, but the dam was pretty good. She won 7 of 11 in dirt sprints and was a 2-year-old winner. That is my guess. Ed's Rocket, Maltese Dog, getting the cash in race 5.
I like it. I like it. And I respect this horse as well. I respect the connections. The works have been solid at Gulfstream Park West. He is debuting for a tag. You mentioned the dam. She was pretty precocious. I haven't been crazy about offspring of Maltese Dog, particularly 2-year-olds. I know he's your new favorite Florida stallion, so kind of took a wait and see, especially with the rail. I did land on the #8 Cabin John for trainer Jonathan Thomas. And this one, they paid $20,000 for this horse. It looks logical that he will debut at this tag. He's nicely bred, though. He's by Gio Ponte and out of a multiple stakes winning mare. She, though, seemed to get better later, which is one thing that concerns me. She had multiple wins on the turf and on the dirt. It looked like some of her stronger races on the turf. So but we'll be interested to see what this one does do first time out.
Yeah, we'll see, as Jonathan Thomas brought his recent record here at GP up to 8 for 13 off a win. I know you were traveling Sunday, so maybe you didn't get a chance to watch some replays or look through the charts, but he ran a Scat Daddy filly by the name of Tessora. I mean, she was monstrous as far as just the lack of early speed with her and the way she finished up.
And pretty impressive. And you mentioned the record, and for such a new barn, and he does have good stock for sure, but certainly have to respect everything that he sends out, especially the maidens, it seems.
Absolutely, and he does get Tyler Gaffalione on the 8 Cabin John. So you would think, whether this horse is live or not, Cabin John is going to be favored because of the connections. One inside of that one is the 7. His name is Sue. We've got an Ed, we've got a John, we've got a Sue, we've got a very dangerous and talented horse trainer, and Kathleen O'Connell sending out a gelding by Cantharos, who was a fairly modest 2-year-old buy at OBS April.
Yes, it was $15,000, and this one, the mare was 1 for 6, and had one sibling that won. He was 1 for 13, so certainly not much pedigree to go off of on the bottom side, but it is a 2-year-old by Cantharos and does have a sharp outfit.
All right, a furlong in 10-3, going back to that OBS sale. We'll see Eduardo Nunez, obviously one of her go-to riders. That is the crew for race number 5. On to race number 6. We're halfway home on this Wednesday afternoon at Gulfstream Park as this 3-and-up filly mare, 2 lifetime, $10,000 claimer on the turf, kicks off the late pick 5, and a little rundown of my ticket, in which sees me a ticket and a play that sees me using 3 in the first leg. I think it's fairly tricky to start things out. Dana's Ride and the 8 Don't Talk Back are the 2 I prefer the most. I'll also use the 3 Dreaming of Aiken there. So a 3-bagger on to the number 5 Sammy Sunshine, who I just thought ran well first time out in a highly touted debut. I know they liked her quite a bit, and she sold for good money, and ultimately I liked the effort she put forth on a hard chase, so I'm going to single her. If a firster's very good, though, she'll she'll be in trouble, and we'll certainly go through that race, Acacia and myself, in just a few moments. On to race number 8. I use Gautier just because I respect him so much, but I do believe cutting back to a mile really gives the edge, and it's not even close to Diaz, who should be flying through the last couple of furlongs. Down the road in race number 9, I maybe should have included the 2 Cincinnati. So Ron picked that one on top. Yeah, Ron's got Cincinnati on top. You gave him a little plug there and talking about your Rainbow 6. As it stands, though, I've only got 2 there, and Rachel's Warrior, who I picked on top, and Fueled by Drama, who's burned quite a bit of money, is more of a defensive use if Rachel's Warrior doesn't step up and run the way I think he's going to. And on to race number 10, I prefer the 5, 7, and 8, 2 horses that you have got covered in your Rainbow 6. I just felt those 3 were just a little more consistently solid than the bulk of that field. Now, as we get back to race number 6, is there a starting point in this race? I kind of felt the 8 Don't Talk Back by virtue of her dropping from 16 to 10,000 was probably the center off point, but what concerns me with her is the 5/8 distance on the grass.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about it too. The reason that I picked her was, yes, she's dropping down. I actually think that she might have some natural speed. She might be able to get in a good, comfortable position going the 5/8. We'll see how it transfers. I do think there's a lot of questions in here, but looking at the other options that you have Dreaming of Aka and Dana's Ride. I don't think either of them are a sure thing by any means, so that's why I did go with this one, who is also getting a little bit of class relief and has some solid back form.
Yeah, she's got back class. I feel she's the best horse in here. It's just going to come down to whether she can go 5/8 on the turf, which is such a tricky, almost niche-like distance to win at. It really is a specialized distance here at Gulfstream Park, and I don't have those same 5/8 qualms with the inside horse in Dana's Ride. Of course, it begs the question, where does she stand overall in the form department, because her last 2 races are pretty average to poor, to say the least. The good news is she's won going 5 on the grass in the past, and I just happened, I'm sure many of you saw it as well, it seemed like Peter Walder's barn had really started to pick things up before that 12-day break before the hurricane, and even had a couple of nice prices, run very well here on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm just going to go with the connections and the prior 5/8 win with Dana's Ride and Dreaming of Aka. I don't know who Aka is, but we've got Dreaming of Aka, and that horse seems to cap sort of the big 3, if you will, in the wagering department. Let's talk about the 7th race. I'm glad we've got a few minutes as we continue on, and we move on to this 2-year-old filly, $53,000 maiden special weight on the dirt at 6 furlongs. Joe Orsino, who's got Don't Talk Back in race 6, comes back with Sammy Sunshine, and considering, and it's a race we're about to show you on August 20th, I thought she was pretty stubborn and clearly second best, despite the fact, and we've got her highlighted beneath the arrow, that she was on a real taxing, hard 3-wide chase behind Regan's Rose, who wound up wiring the field at 8-5.
She did, and Regan's Rose had some experience under her belt before. She'd ran some really good races, and so yes, Sammy Sunshine was a very clear second, but I thought it was a very good performance from her. I did think that she certainly had room to improve as far as physical goes, so being beaten by a horse that was the experienced one, she should have maybe some more fitness. And if you look at even the work tab too, it was very, very sharp work leading up to that last race, and it looked like it was kind of a maintenance one after that. So it looks like the connections do feel that she's coming in strongly and should be able to take a step forward.
Yeah, I like her getting Tyler. Not that Jose Batista did anything wrong. He rode a perfect race. She was just second best. It never hurts to pick up Gaffleone, who's still #1 in the country in victories. I believe he's got 224 as we start this 10-race program, and it goes without saying that he is very live in numerous races today. Now, you took, like I did, Sammy Sunshine on top. We'll have a difference as far as our runner-up goes. You've got the inside horse, Morning Destiny, who didn't show much first time out, but was bet a little in that race.
Was bet a little, and I liked how she looked. I thought that she made a very solid impression. Maybe she just needed some experience, and I think that the mare has just really been such a great producer. She was a stakes winner, and she won at 2. She's already produced a couple of stakes place horses in Elusive Fate and Pilot House, and she's produced 7 winning foals. So there's certainly that win pedigree pedigree. I think that this one's going to be a price, and yes, she didn't run in that same race, but again, it was the horse with experience who was just much the best. I'll give her a second try, though she does have some stuff to prove.
And we saw Antonio Sano at 20-1 here, and arguably could have won the race. It was a maiden claimer, but he had a second time starting Colt by Morning Line, who looked very similar to Morning Destiny, who was 20-1 and just lost second time out by a whisker here Sunday afternoon. Maybe that bodes well for Jesus Rios riding from that inside post. Touche, a little guess here. You got some steam. We got a gray filly by Overanalyze. What's the story here for a very dangerous trainer in Sandra Slivka?
Yes, and I have a feeling that Ron will probably like this one too. I know he's a big fan of the outfit, and the work tab is impressive. I've been impressed with Overanalyze Offspring as far as winning early. The mare was 0 for 4, but this one will be a price as well. I think that there are some opportunities for prices. As far as the 6 Grand Leticia, that one has a really impressive work tab. There wasn't much precocity, though. It seemed like the mare and the siblings did get better as they got older.
They definitely did, and the dam was more of a turf sprinter.
Right.
I think all 3 of her career wins came sprinting on the turf, and you might expect the best is yet to come down the line out of her being by a broken vow. I can tell you that this horse was a buyback, a $25,000 RNA as a yearling, and doesn't debut in a maiden claiming race. I viewed that as a positive.
Sure.
And trainer Oscar Gonzalez has been on a good run here as well. Had a nice victory at Mount Guapo on Sunday afternoon in that starter stakes, and he's got an Animal Kingdom filly who sold for decent money. The first fall from a dam, who was a 2-time winner and did win as a 2-year-old in dirt sprints.
Yeah, this is a tough race. I used 4 horses in here, and I even wonder if I have enough after we keep talking.
Yeah, we may have 1, 2, 3 live firsters, to say the least, including that Antonio Sano second-time starter, taking runs at Sammy Sunshine as the favorite in the 7th race. We continue on. I thought this was kind of the spotlight race, if you will. Center stage, no doubt, with a good group of turf horses in our 8th race today, a 2-turn mile on the grass, and saw a good battle last time out, or maybe battle doesn't even do it justice, because Gautier popped out on top, sped clear early on, and Diaz kind of just went through the motions, was more or less one pace. We'll show you the race back on August 13th. However, and Gautier is the one on the front end in the Carlo Vaccarezza silks, the red cap, but Diaz got a ground-saving ride from an outside post, and as you'll see, never really seemed to punch at crunch time. I don't think that'll happen today, though, as these horses shorten up from 9 to 8 furlongs.
You're absolutely right. I think that makes all the difference. I like Gautier going the 9 furlongs a little bit better. Even the mile in a 16th. He does have 2 wins at the mile distance, but it looks like this is right where Diaz feels the most comfortable. He has succeeded going a little bit longer, but he's 4 for 9 at the distance. He is as consistent as they come. And while there are some other nice horses in here for sure with some really good wins, it really does look like these 2 are going to be the big 2. Gautier, I imagine, will have a lot of speed from that inside post. We'll see if Diaz can get the closing run on the outside.
And speaking of that speed with Gautier, you've got potentially Chatino from the rail, who could be the monkey wrench in the plans there for Gautier, or at least a horse that can push Gautier and keep him honest. I mean, you're just really dealing with a pair of honest horses who have run all summer long and who have put on some good shows, whether they've been against each other or they've just been in races separately. Gautier and Diaz have been solid for quite some time, and we're fans, and I'm looking like you forward to seeing them square off in today's 8th race.
And quickly, to help our point one little bit, we have a stat on Tammy Levy in the money last time out with turf routes, 9 for 37. She's 24% win and nearly even ROI, but just another little extra food for thought on our top pick.
And we've got another stat forthcoming to you as we go from Tammy Levy potentially to Kathleen O'Connell scoring a nice little girl power rolling double in races 8 and 9. I like it as well, as we have a $10,000 maiden claiming race to wrap things up on the main track. Our final dirt race goes as the 9th 7-furlong maiden claiming race, in which you've got to get around the number 6 Fueled by Drama, and this horse may have timed it right, and maybe it's just a case of him being a little more consistent and faster than the competition, but his lost 2 back really bugs me at 4 to 5. That was a race I thought, no way could he ever lose that race, and he really had no excuse losing by a neck, and he was trounced last time out. So maybe that'll open up the door for a mild upsetter, and I'm hoping, my feeling is that 3 Rachel's Warrior might just be a little dirtied up. I like the improvement from his debut to his second start, and then the wheels kind of fell off, but I do believe he was bias compromised on a speed track August 5th, and he clearly hates a sloppy track. I'm glad he doesn't have to bring his mud boots to work today. He gets a beautiful day to do his thing here and hopefully win the night.
He does, and he ran against Grand Venezuelan 2 starts back, who was way the best in that race. So maybe you can be a little bit more forgiving of this one. I did take a shot in here because I think a lot of these horses have kind of built up excuses or maybe just taking a while to break their maidens. So a second-time starter, debuted in the slop. I know he didn't run against a step, but it was against a bit tougher, and I certainly respect Kathleen O'Connell. Will show a stat as well. This is first-time blinkers with horses making their second start over the past 5 years. She's 19% win, 42% in the money, and a positive ROI as well. Plus, he gets Edgar Zayas, which is never a bad thing at all. I thought he had a little bit of lean muscle to work with last time out. Maybe the drop will help him.
Just Zayas taking the call on this horse at a maiden 10, it just makes you go, huh, why is Edgar riding this horse, getting blinkers on? It makes you feel today is go time, and at least Kathleen has seen more than enough for that horse to be a big factor running for 10 Gs. 3 and up $10,000 claimers cap the card. We had the girls in the first. We'll have the Colts and Geldings here in race number 10, the nightcap. 7.5 furlongs once again on the turf, and more I looked around, I want horses towards the mid-pack and then outside. Hopetown on top for me, who showed up, I would say, with a lateral effort. First off, the claim for Peter Walder, but that was again during a spot and a position in August, or at least a time on the calendar, where the barn just seemed to be in a funk. Things have turned around, so I'm going to take the 7 Hopetown over the number 8 Tiro, who I thought had a chance and might show some early speed.
Yeah, I really have liked Hopetown for a while. Remember, I loved him 2 starts back getting the win, but I did land on Big Money Machine, who is a bit of a question. You talked about consistency, and that certainly is not his thing, as he is a little bit hard to saddle and hard to handle in the afternoons, but I think once he has his head on straight, he has a lot of talent, and it was a really big performance from him last time for the really good barn, I think, of Rohan Crichton.
All right, Jose Batista rode well here Saturday and Sunday. Had a nice winner by Joe Orsino as the trainer, of course, to cap things on Sunday's card. We're not capping anything. In fact, we'll say goodbye, but just for a few minutes. Pete Aiello up next with those Wednesday scratches and changes, and you and I will be back with the one, the only Ron Nicoletti before the first.
That's right. We'll see you later. Good luck.